Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. A very warm welcome to our second episode of Transformation Talks. I'm Yasmin Taj, editor and head of branded content for ETHR International, and it is my pleasure to be amongst all of you today. As part of the Transformation Talks LinkedIn Live series, every week I will host different talent leaders and HR tech influencers to share their experiences in transformation stories of talent, technology, and processes. With unprecedented disruptions happening around the world, there is a need for businesses to transform themselves to unlock new opportunities, drive new growth, and stay relevant for customers. Through our Transformation Talk series, we will keep bringing first hand experience of leaders who are leading transformation from the front. And the topic for today's discussion is Thrive, Not Survive, Defining a Different Normal. With markets disrupting so quickly, today business focus is not just about business continuity and survival, but how can our business thrive and accelerate its growth? In today's episode, we will hear the transformation story of Australia's largest telecommunications company. And to share more insights, we have with us Alex Badenoch, Group Executive, Transformation, Communications and People, Telstra. Alex is accountable for Telstra's transformation roadmap and orchestrating the delivery of its key priorities with a focus on transforming the way employees work. She also oversees activity design to strengthen employee engagement and external reputation. A very warm welcome to you, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Yasmin. Lovely to be here today.
Great. How are you feeling and how are things out there in Australia?
Oh, look, I think every time we think that things are stabilizing a bit, there's another surprise. So I think most of us globally are watching the emergence of a new variant. It has been it's been one of the most extraordinary 18 months to 2 years that I think any of us can imagine living through, whether that's personally or professionally. But I'm equally conscious in Australia, we have been extremely lucky. We have not seen some of the impacts that other parts of the world have, and we have really been able, and parts of our country have been able to live fairly normally during this whole time. I'm in Melbourne, and Melbourne unfortunately does hold I believe, the global record for the largest number of days of lockdown for COVID. So
Yes.
it's not necessarily the thing that makes us the happiest, Yasmin.
But yes, you've been fortunate that way. Great. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. And before I start the discussion, I'd request our viewers today to keep sharing your thoughts on this episode on social media and on LinkedIn as well. And we will share our experiences with you as we go through this discussion. So, Alex, at the same time, organizations started paying more attention to employee experience and well being to deal with the sudden upheaval. So, how can organizations define this new normal and create a more human workplace where employees and businesses can thrive? Yes, Alex.
Sorry, Yasmin, I lost your sound right at the end there. So I think one of the things you were asking about was how we define a new normal and how
Yes.
we move away from that survive to thrive perspective. And I think one of the things for us at Telstra has been not to look at this as something we've got to get through. Um, I think for certainly, I've heard other organisations talk about it as when do we get to go back to the way things were, and I think one of the things we decided fairly early on is to enable our people to thrive. We needed to actually set a new destination, a new way of working. So there are some things that are part of Telstra's culture anyway, around being very committed to flexible work, very committed to enabling people to bring their whole selves to work. But if you think about this moment in time, it's accelerated those two things because one, most of us or many of us have shifted about 18 months ago or so to work from our homes, which meant that it created this very human face to organisations that even if we had tried to have I don't think we were quite able to do in the same way. I'm sure many of you have lived the experiences where a pet, a child, a partner has come into shot and suddenly been part of your meeting. And that gives people a window into all of us as human beings, which I think is very profound and different than anything we've had before. So your seniority, your title, all of those things that in an office-based environment were so important kind of melted away. And we all just became human beings who were in our homes and, have families, have pets, have all those things that we're dealing with. So it was this wonderful leveling moment. And I think it actually is one of the most important things, that we should not be looking to how do we go back to where we were. It should be, how do we maintain that as part of our work environment going forward? Because the human connections actually are really, really important. The other dimension that became, I think, more important than ever, it was important in our organisation before, but the conversation about mental health and well-being. It has been something that organisations have talked about, but I don't think it's been something that we have thought about every single day in the way that we work. So if I think about some of the things we've done, is to start to redefine how we work. So whether that's overtly blocking out meeting free times. When I was in the office, we never thought about that, right? I was happily booking up my diary all day, but then we watch people struggle with being online and on a camera all day, or struggle because they had kids at home that they were trying to homeschool. And creating space for people became really important. So in our business, we said, right, at least twice a week, there's an hour where there's no meetings that'll be booked right across the business. And some parts of our business embraced that even more and created meeting-free days. And that mattered to our people. And then we also recognise that this Zoom culture means that there's no breaks. You used to get up from a meeting room and you'd walk to another room, and that gave you a moment to grab a drink, say hello to someone, do those sorts of things. But now you're just a click away from your next meeting. And so there were no pauses, no moments of reflection. So we've adopted, actually, Microsoft have just released a capability within Teams, which is to have a preset standard that shortens meetings. So rather than half an hour meetings and hour meetings, you can have 20 or 25-minute meetings and 50-minute meetings. And we have preset that as our default in our calendars, which means people automatically schedule a space in their day. And the third thing is, rather than waiting for everyone to come back to the office, I think you have to embrace the fact that we've now been in this way of working for so long that actually we need to set people up to have this as a permanent part of the way things are going to be. So we've introduced what we call our My Home Toolkit, and that is every single employee can literally click an order, their sit or stand desk, their screens, their keyboards, all the things that they need to be as well set up at home as they are in the office. It's not a temporary moment. We're not going back. We're going to be defining something that's very, very different going forward. So we need to give people the tools and the culture that's going to enable them to do that.
Those were some great insights, Alex. Thanks so much. I do agree with you that while technology became the bedrock of all the transformation that happened in the past 2 years, I think becoming human and being ensuring that you're taking care of the well-being of your employees, be it physical well-being or mental well-being, drawing that line between personal and professional, very interestingly put. I think those are going to be very important in how organizations position themselves for the future of work. So thanks, and those were some great initiatives that you shared with our audience today. So, moving on, my next question to you would be: an employee centric workplace promotes people's strengths and capabilities, leading to noteworthy levels of engagement, productivity, and positive business outcome. Hence, focusing on employee engagement, experience, productivity, and retention is the key to a successful business. However, HR leadership often face challenges to achieve those diverse outcomes. So, how can the leadership of today drive sustainable engagement according to you, Alex?
Yeah. I think there's a few things that are really important for leaders to embrace and focus on as as far as building engagement is concerned. Some of them aren't new. One of the things that I found a little bit interesting in this conversation over the last couple of years is that people are talking about things as if they're all brand new, but good leadership, which means I set clear goals for my people. They know what good looks like and they get regular feedback, was always good leadership. And it will be going forward. I support my people with their career development and growth through training, through career opportunities, through coaching and mentoring. That's good leadership and will help people's engagement. I think the dimensions that have shifted the most are this issue about choice and flexibility. I think for many, many employees, they believe and their lives have been disrupted in a way where choice has become more important than ever. And as a leader, you need to understand that. Your employees have a choice about where they work, how they work, when they work, and why they work, which means you need to earn the right to have the talent join you and to have the talent stay with you by giving them flexible work choices in terms of hybrid working or working from home sometimes, whatever the case may be. You need to really be thinking about how are you giving people stimulating, interesting work, which then supports their career growth and development. And the other dimension, certainly here in Australia, which I think has become, it's been emerging over the years, but I think it's become stronger than ever, is employees are interested in what sort of corporate citizen their organisation is. They want to join an organisation which has a deeper purpose than just selling whatever products they sell. I think most of us want to get up each day and feel that we contribute to something bigger and more meaningful. And so how your corporation either shows up on social issues, whether that be climate change, whether that be any other sort of with diversity and inclusion, for example, increasingly important elements that building engagement. So for us, we have amplified traditional elements of leadership, which is set clear goals, give regular feedback, help your people learn and grow, and combine that with really fully embracing a level of flexibility that is beyond anything that we've ever seen, and being really, really clear on what we stand for and our purpose as an organisation. And that has seen us at the moment at our highest levels of employee engagement that I ever recall in the company. So they're kind of simple things, but you've just got to stick to them.
Very beautifully put, Alex. I think, yes, they do count of simple things, but you've got to stick to them. And as you said, good leadership is good leadership. There's nothing that has changed no matter what the world goes through. But yes, adding the whole aspect of choice and flexibility for your people and listening even more to them, being even more empathetic than before, I think those are going to be very important milestones for leaders going forward. So thank you for sharing that. So, Alex, as we talk about sustainable engagement and thriving in the future of work, what are some of the most crucial components of a human workplace for enhanced engagement and connection?
I think some of the things are actually changing your internal company dialogue. So when you think about employee communications, I think a lot of companies are used to very corporate communications. It's very polished. We're all sort of perfectly scripted for everything that we say, and we want it to run so smoothly. What I've seen over the last couple of years is what employees actually are responding to is imperfection and that very corporate kind of speech. So actually some of the most powerful engagements we've had over the last couple of years are when, as leaders, we just get on a forum exactly like this and we share what we're going through or our own experiences. So for example, I have two sons. I have an older son who's 17 and about to do his last year of school, and I have a much younger son who is 7, and he started his school life in remote learning virtually. And I shared the stories of those experiences, very different experiences. The teenager who should be out socializing and leaving his parents behind, with the small child who was trying to learn online and couldn't read yet. And those were really challenging times, but that was a conversation I just wouldn't have ever thought to have before. But by having that conversation, there's thousands of people on the other end of the screen who actually can relate to me, who understand that it doesn't matter what job title I have. At the end of the day, I'm a mum, I'm a wife, uh, I, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, and I'm dealing with all of the same things that everyone else is. And I think making sure that we don't walk away from sharing those stories and engaging in that very human way are such an important part to how we think about internal communications and engagement going forward. And I think the other thing, as I mentioned before, that dialing up a focus on health and well-being and making it okay for people not to feel like they're coping or need extra support or call out if they need a different work arrangement. I thought we had a really strong culture around that before COVID, but I saw it just increase and get even stronger and stronger. And I'm very passionate that that dimension of making leaders human and making conversation about health and well-being, if you can keep those two things going and resist the temptation to going back to corporate speak and over polished presentations, then you'll keep your workplace human, and people will then be more confident to share their perspectives with you. Because Yasmin, you mentioned before the importance of listening to your people and making that more important than ever. People will share with you and will give you their perspectives when they trust you and they can relate to you, and keeping it human is a really important way to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. I think I love this part about moving away from polished corporate communications to making it personal, making it more engaging. I think that makes the whole thing more human when people know they can connect with you on a personal level and understand the kind of person you are. I think that's empathy, right? Where you feel what the other person is going through. That is where you'll actually cross the line of being just a business and moving into a more human workplace. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Alex, in the last 24 months, we've traced our path from surviving and moving on to thriving now. We've learned new skills to cope with the present realities and reconnect with the world with a different yet fresh perspective. Peeping into the future, organizations need to define strategies to deal with the new challenges, whether fleeting or lasting. What, according to you, are some of the essential skills to survive and capabilities to thrive for the new age workforce?
There's probably two things I would call out. One is an organisational capability, and one is around people's individual capability. At an organisational level, we shifted our organisation as part of our broader transformation to what we call Agile at scale. And we did that a couple of years ago, which was moving our teams into working in agile teams. We have about 20 odd thousand of our staff who now work in full scale agile. That means that their work is far more clearly defined. We're very specific about what the work is, what the measure of success is, in what time frame work will be delivered, at what cost and to what benefit. And I think that is really helpful when your world gets disrupted. Having that way of working that allows you to be really clear on what you have to deliver, have those very, very clear goals, but also be agile in how you respond to it and reshape your work and remobilize your workforce to whatever's most important right now, I actually think is a critical capability, because the world has been moving at a faster and faster pace for the last few years. I feel now a year's worth of change is more like what it used to be for 5 years worth of change, and I suspect that soon, a month will feel like a year's worth, and it just all sort of starts to speed up. So organisationally, you need to be agile and you need to be responsive, because if you are too conservative and too hardwired around how you work, you're not going to be able to respond quickly to new challenges. And from the people side, what do we need people to do? We need them to be resilient. we need them to be flexible, and we need them to be adaptable. And if we have resilient, flexible, adaptable people working in an agile organisation, then we have the core fundamentals to thrive in whatever the world throws at us. It's not just surviving this moment, it's that we know how to respond, we know how to adjust, and we just come out stronger every single time.
Great points. I think I totally agree with you. If the organization ensures that it is agile, if people ensure and work towards reinventing themselves, becoming more resilient, adaptable, and flexible, as you said, I think no matter how many changes organizations or the world goes through, we will be able to adapt and reinvent ourselves. So thanks, Alex. Alex, my last question to you in terms of the longer question that I have for you is it's very pressing and imperative. Organizations today are striving to flourish in the new era of work. They are rummaging for strategies, tools, and levers to thrive and not survive. So, how can organizations proliferate their success, bloom, and prosper, even with limited resources?
Yeah, I actually think limited resources are a wonderful thing because they tend to encourage innovation. When you have too much capacity and too much resource, you tend to try and do everything, and sometimes you take the long way around to do it. Limited resources are a gift because they cause you to do a couple of things. In our agile construct, one of the things that we have been working on the last few years is how do we improve our prioritization and making sure that we don't try and do everything, we try and do what matters most, and what matters most to our customers and our employees. Because if we actually listen to those two voices, then as a business, we're going to be successful. You don't have to worry so much about all of the other components when you hear those two voices. So I actually think limited resources force you to prioritize, to focus on what matters, and to listen to the voices that ultimately will guide your success. So I think those are two things that are critical. The other thing I think that is really important as we think about setting our organisations up to thrive and to prosper is making sure you put some of those limited resources into growing the capability of your people. Most of our businesses, not every business, but almost every business, ultimately, their success depends on the quality of their people. I haven't met too many businesses that don't rely on that. And what we are seeing is a world I've just mentioned before. It is changing very, very fast. The technology is changing. Ways of working are changing. Customer expectations are changing. If I think just about COVID, we all got really used to and really dependent on every single company having great online service and sales capability, because that's how we got everything we needed, from our food to our clothes to our entertainment. And so customers' expectations are shifting. We've got to be able to respond to that, and we need the people with the skills and the capability to do it. So making sure you're investing in your people, never compromise on the investment in your people. We've been trying to do a whole range of things, from creating micro credentials so that our people can go and get short, sharp, bite-sized learning and upskill in about 6 to 12 weeks and get new qualifications. I think that sort of thing is going to become more and more important, both to attract talent, retain talent, and develop your talent in organisations. And I think the other thing that will be really important is organisations thinking about their purpose, because purpose will attract talent. I mentioned before that employees have choice, and I think that choice has really become important to them over the last couple of years. So do you have a purpose that motivates and excites and engages talent? I think is the third thing for companies to be thinking about.
Again, some great thoughts, Alex. I totally agree with you. It's not really the quantity that matters, but the quality of people that you have working for you, and how adaptable are they? How are they changing along with your business needs? So that's important. And if you have the right purpose, as you said, employees will choose to work for you. So thanks for sharing that. On that note, we come to the end of the long interview that we have for you, but we have and some amazing insights from you, Alex. But before we wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions for you as well. So are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the first question to you, Alex, would be one word to define the new normal.
It's about choice, choice about where we work, how we work, when we work, and why we work.
Absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Top three skills of tomorrow that every organization must inculcate in its employees to thrive in the future of work.
I'm going to be repetitive. It's got to be resilient, flexible, and adaptable.
Absolutely. And those are some great ones. Thanks for sharing them. And finally, any tips to become a more agile organization in 2022?
Yeah, I'll probably cheat and be a little bit longer on this one. I think, Yasmin, I think every company needs to define what agile means for them. I think there's a lot of people who use the word, but what does it actually look like and feel like for you? And once you define that, you need to develop the plan around people, process, and systems that will deliver on that agility or the goal of agility and help you maintain it. But the first thing is, what does it actually mean for you? Because we use the word a lot, but I'm not sure that a lot of people stop and say, this is what it's going to look like for us.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. So, on that note, that was all the time that we have for this LinkedIn Live session. It was great fun. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your first-hand experience with our viewers today. I personally learned a lot, and it's beautiful to understand how important it is and how leaders like you understand the need to become more human in the kind of world that we're living in, where everything is changing on a daily basis, creating human workplaces, taking care of the personal space of employees, their well-being is, and how important it is for leaders to follow those moments, listen to their employees, become more empathetic in this moment. And technology will always be there, it'll keep changing, but how do you create agile organizations, and how do you encourage your people to reinvent themselves on a daily basis? I think those are some great takeaways from this conversation today. So thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Thank you, Yasmin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And I would like to inform our audience today that Alex would be joining us at the Economic Times Phoenix CXO Summit APAC on the 18th of January. So if you want to interact with her again, then visit the Phoenix APAC website and block your seat now. The registration link is also put up in the chat section here. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We will come back to you next week with another transformation talk story with yet another talent leader on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Singapore time. Do block this time in your calendar for another powerful transformation talk. Till then, stay safe and keep transforming. See you all next week. Thank you and bye bye.